so good afternoon and welcome to another edition of It Takes Two with myself, Hugh, and this week I'm joined by the broadcast journalist, longtime veteran of the radio talk show, Sista Aura. Greetings, Sista Aura. How you doing?
Greetings, my brother Hugh. How you doing? I'm there. Me alive and kicking out, work through the things, so I give thanks. I'm here.
Good. We've been waiting for a minute to get this together. I mean, to get hold of you and get you in the studio, right? So to link this thing up. So I've been really looking forward to this one. And as I was mentioning to the viewers that talk show host, but I didn't know where to start because I know you've been on so many radio stations. I didn't even know how to kind of like address your portfolio, but I just know that you've been a talk show host for like at least about 15 years. So I know that you've been in the game for a minute. And maybe I think you was the first person that brought me on radio as an individual. You know what I mean? Like community radio, you were the first person that invited me on your show. I remember them years ago, we was chopping it up. So man, the history's there, innit? The history's there.
Yeah, exactly. Let me just give a small quick intro. Like you said, I'm Sista Aura. Everyone who listens to and has been in the past listening to Black community radio stations, I've always been a talk show presenter. So on our Black radio stations, I don't do the music thing. I'm known for poetry, supporting and promoting poetry. And I'm a talk show presenter who covers every single subject that affects us as African people here and in the diasporas and the Caribbean. I can be controversial in my history of being on talk show programs. My established stations, as you said, I've been on quite a few. Genesis Radio, Galaxy Radio, Bantu Radio, quite to name a few. I've been on Blues FM as well, doing shows on Blues FM, and I've also been able to do quite a few internet shows. So to be quite honest, I was one of the first original Genesis Radio. I have to big them up because they were one of the first original stations in the entire Black community that had gone doing internet shows before we were not doing internet shows, i.e. everybody else was on FM dial. We were on FM and internet. So big respect to them, to Genesis and D-Road, because my firmness of working on mainstream social networking, promoting shows or doing interviews and stuff has been from that foundation. So for those of you who know me, hi, my voice is back and my face is now being seen. And for those of you that don't, I hope that this is a very enlightening show that raises a lot of discussions. It's not about agreeing with my views, my opinions. It's just throwing them out there and getting people thinking, questioning and analysing Black relationships and Black psyche.
Key. You said get them thinking. So as you can see on the screen, and people know that my slogan is sometimes controversial, often provocative, but always informative. So we're really going to try to encourage to get the people thinking about this subject matter. The subject matter that we're going to be discussing today is colorism. And I chose to show this first slide or this first visual because I had a question in mind. I've been getting a lot of pushback from some of my female colleagues and associates and about colorism and this issue to do with light skin and dark skin and a preference, but it seemed to be kind of gender orientated, as if to say that, Black men, the dark skinned Black men are not subject to the same rules or something of this nature. But I chose in my marketing campaign to specifically use models that were darker sisters. And I wanted to ask a question, as I've asked a few of my colleagues when I was putting together the promotional material. Like, this is a dark-skinned sister, and I there's no way of verifying it, but I'm just saying, looking at her, does she look like she's stuck at home feeling sorry for herself, or somebody that struggles to get male attention and to be approached by worthy suitors in terms of marriage or somebody interested in taking her seriously? Does she appear to look sorry for herself? Or what's your first thoughts when you see that image?
My first thoughts when I see that image, what a beautiful Black woman. What a beautiful Black sister. She looks beautiful in her image. She looks well-dressed, well-presented. She looks like she's articulate, and she looks like she cares herself, and she looks like a professional. She's obviously in a social environment because in the background it's like a bar. But for me, I wouldn't question anything about the presentation of this promotion, this flyer. I'm used to seeing when you have a perception and you have an understanding of yourself as a Black woman, an African woman, you do not have an issue with colorism. When you understand the psychology behind that foundation of colorism, for me, I can only speak for me, I don't see different shades. I don't see colorism. I see Black beauty, African beauty.
Okay.
That's
Well,
what I see.
Well, I consciously went out to, because of kind of like colorism, before I even thought about putting this actual episode together, but I consciously picked models that were darker skinned to like kind of like be anti-colorist, or not to be accused of colorist, or not to be misconceived as colorist, or if there is a gender, which we're going to look at, if there is a gender, what it looks like, to not be a part of that agenda. But as I unshare this slide, I've got to ask you to maybe, just for the benefit of the viewers, just to maybe give a little outline, a working definition of what you see colorism as.
Okay. Well, we live in a society where visualization is 99% of what it is. So it's not really, it's about what you see and what we make you see, what we want you to see. So just like in the marketing advertising industry, if you're going to sell a product, there's a particular way that we design and create in order for those people that are looking at our advert or our products get a perception of something. Now, historically, colorism is a problem because it's coming from an enslavement background. And because it is coming from an enslavement historical background, and I say enslavement as in shackled, for me, it's very much shackled enslavement. It's a capturing of people, and you're promoting a side of imagery. So when you're promoting an imagery, that imagery historically is no different from what we're using today as imageries today to promote what is acceptable. So what is acceptable in advertising is, for example, advertising a hand cream. 99% of the time, it will be a white perception, a white woman or a white male advertising a shower cream or a shower gel. Now, forget recently, because we're talking about within the last 10 years is as recent, where we're now seeing more Black men on adverts, more Black females in adverts. So let's not talk about the recent 10 years, because we can come back to that. What we're looking at is over 100 years, 200 years of presenting a perception.
So historically, you're talking real historically, yeah?
Right. Now for me, because I'm an Afrocentric sister, and I have to go back before I can go forward. So in order to understand where we are now in our forward self, we need to understand the perception and the foundation and the psychology behind where colorism concept comes from. So we know that concept, for those of us that know our basic history, and for those of us that don't, just on a basic level, we know that the fairer you were in enslavement as a slave, the more better privilege and access to things you would have. So if you were a dark-skinned slave working in the fields, that's where you stayed, in the field. If you were a red-skinned, fair-skinned, bronze-skinned female, you were more likely to be the one Massa raped all the time, Massa produced children with all the time, and your children from that raping in enslavement would then, because their skin tone would be fairer, would also have the privileges that another dark-skinned slave would not have.
Okay, so this is, let me jump in there. So this is like a kind of a hierarchy, but it's a false hierarchy or a social construct, and it may have had, and maybe to this day, maybe it has Black people of different shades kind of rivaling against each other at times. However, they don't really control, which what's kind of ironic is that they don't control the actual discourse. They're just kind of victims, or we are just victims of this kind of horrible historical legacy, right? But I want to move the conversation on ever so slightly, but bearing in mind the gender aspect that we'll come back to again. There's a young lady called Bridget Tete that wrote an article about the how colorism complicates the dating game. She wrote it some years ago, I think for a BBC. I read the article, based on a BBC 4 podcast.
Yeah, I read the article.
And she talks about some of the different things that she or some of her female cohorts have kind of encountered on their travels in terms of the dating game. Is there an assumption then, right, that colorism doesn't affect dark-skinned Black men? Because I mean, if we live in a society that is based on different forms of prejudice and racism being one of them, why would dark-skinned black man get a kind of like, a pass? Why would he get a pass?
So let me put this argument forward in relation to part answering that question. Is it because, or maybe because the black man, the darker skinned black man can access a European woman or a woman outside of his cultural race? Is it the fact that he has the option to marry out or integrate with something other than the black woman? Dark-skinned men don't have a problem, because if you're a dark-skinned male, successful or not, famous or not, you can literally know for a fact that a European or a different cultural woman would find you attractive, and you can date them straight away. However, a dark-skinned sister, even if she was successful in her own rights and own entirety, wouldn't have the same interaction. She still would find it hard to find a brother or a European.
You think so? Is that the okay, we're going to go a bit deeper then. We're going to go a bit deeper.
Our brothers have put themselves in a different position where in the past it was not acceptable for the black man to look at a white woman, touch a white woman, or be around a white woman. So the idea of colorism only came into play if black men were being raped.
You mean black women? You mean black women?
Yeah. So it's like the white woman has always been the forbidden fruit.
All right. So, but you're talking about interracial. Yeah, you're talking about interracial. That's a show in itself. That's a big topic. Yeah, not a problem. I feel like we might need to come back there and look at that, because it's about the aesthetic. It's about attraction. It's about sexual attraction, sexual currency. There's all these different things that's going on. But I'm just trying to like keep it to colorism, only because this in and of itself is a big topic. What makes a dark-skinned black man more accessible?
I think black men face colorism in a different way from how other women face colorism, because Speak about that in some detail if you can. And I think it's also about, my key thing again is lack of knowledge. So if you've grown up with this perception that the fairer you are, the better you are. We do it in Jamaica, in the Jamaican culture, where we say red skin woman, brown skin woman, better than a dark skin woman, and all the rest of it. We do it in Jamaica, we do it in the Caribbeans, and we do it in the Africas. More so in the Africas, where you see women bleaching their skin to be more fairer.
So now, that bleaching basically is in response to a desire for male attention, or to become more marketable in terms of the dating or the marriaging or the seeking male attention, basically, though. That's what it's about. That's cutting to the chase, though, isn't it?
And not just male attention, employment attention. In the system, the socialization of all the structures that are out there, walking through an office door in an interview. So if you're more likely to be a very dark-skinned woman or a very dark-skinned man going for a job in a very, what we call white-collar industry, compared to a fair-skinned man and a fair-skinned woman that may look more mixed race or more just bronze color, whichever definition one wants to use, and walking in for an interview, I can guarantee you that that individual, white European doing the interview, has already, energy-wise, from seeing the two physical images, because they're just images, they haven't spoken yet, has already got an attraction to one or the other, or a comfortableness with one or the other, based on perception. Now, our culture is doing exactly that same thing.
All right.
Within our Colourism, we are doing that exact same thing amongst each other. We're looking at a brother and saying, boy, I don't like a red skin man, I like a dark skin one. Boy, I don't like a, etc., etc. We're doing it within ourselves. Now, the question is why would we do that?
Slavery, colonialism is done. So why are we doing that?
So therefore, and that's exactly it. So therefore, if slavery, and we've been educated from understanding that's what happened in slavery, why is that perception still happening to this day? Why are some of our sisters still feel they need to bleach their dark, beautiful skin into a fairer skinned person? And yet when that happens, the outcome is never the same, as you've seen the results of when women bleach their skin, or when men, African men, Jamaican men are bleaching their skin. We've seen the damage it does to their skin. They neither fit into the Bronze Age. Sorry. Okay, you know what's the matter? It's up around the jaw, they neither fitting into the Bronze Age or any other. They just completely look totally different.
Okay.
Now that damage has already been done, but I would argue that the action behind that was based on what is accepted in the wider white society, not just being an attractive person to someone of my own cultural race, my own cultural group, should I say. So I think it's more than sexual attraction. I think it's more than just what we like in somebody. I think it's a lot more deeper than that. Hence why the dating game is a problem. Like Bridget was talking about article.
She mentioned something which sounds kind of actually disgusting, but I have to repeat it because this is education at the day. That, you know, that's, I think one of the people that she interviewed or discussed the issue of dating mentioned hearing things like, "You're quite attractive for a dark-skinned girl." Now that sounds like somebody needed counselling, maybe a course of counselling or some kind of a treatment plan would go a long way. But maybe there are people that think like that, people that would actually make that come out of their mouth.
No, but I think as a male, you might be quite kind of like limited to know that is common. I'm over 50. I've been hearing that since I was 18, and I'm fair skinned. My daughter is dark skinned. My daughter's got dark melanated, beautiful dark melanated skin, just like the imagery of the young lady that you started the show with. Mm-hmm. And I am not. I can walk down the road, and if it wasn't for the fact that they say my child looks like me, my daughter looks like me, then I would assume people wouldn't even think that she's my child. Mm-hmm. 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 Based on imagery.
So based on what... I'm always a person that likes to look below the surface and look a little bit deeper, yeah? What I'm thinking is that I gotta be a little bit of a protagonist now. I'm thinking, all right, when I was younger, right, I would go for job interviews, right? I had an attitude, right? I was somewhat immature and bad timekeeper. So I'm turning up for the job interview late. I'm turning up systematically. I'm turning up for job interview late. I'm not answering the questions very well. I'm not really doing a good presentation of myself. But I was convinced the only variable why I didn't get that job was because these goddamn people was racist. All right, somebody older pulls me to the side, whispers in my ear and says, hey, come on, put a shirt on. What time did you get there? I get a little bit of coaching from an elder, right? One of my older brothers actually, pull my coat. I approach the same situation similar situations in interviews slightly differently. Now, I started to get better results. I asked back for a second interview, I started to get the job. Now, that doesn't mean that racism don't exist, but it means that there's a variable that I changed, maybe some of the things that I was doing, right, to kind of get a better result, to get a better outcome. Do you think sometimes for some Black women, for some darker skinned Black women, that they might be hyper vigilant about colorism? And then there might be other factors why things go a certain way, but in their mind, they were convinced it's just because I was dark skinned. That man's a colorist.
That goes two ways, because if we're talking about specifically around relationships and dating and attraction, law of attraction, meeting someone, that goes both ways, because we're not just looking at what my skin tone is or what me being a dark skinned woman. It's also about personality and attitude. So if Black women per se, African women per se, are feisty energies, mm-hmm. We are warrior spirits in who we present ourselves within our family, and we are the same fire energy, conscious energy when we interact in the world. Now, the question should be is what type of man is attracted to what type of African/Black woman? Now, if you are the type of male who your attraction is somebody who is a sister who is more passive in her personality, in her tone, how she speaks and how she presents herself, then in that psyche, somebody might say, a brother might say, well, I can only get those types of characteristics in a sister that seems to be more fair-skinned.
Okay. Although that's not a fact, but they're making a correlation. Then in their experience, they tend to find that, okay, all right, I hear you. I'm hearing you.
So, and this is why I'm just touching on what you were touching on, is that that's more than just, it's a lot more like complicated, because if it's based on me being a black sister and I'm aggressive, therefore it's looked at as a non-attractive quality for a dark sister. For a dark sister to have those elements, she could be defined as aggressive and all those kind of negative connotations. Totally missing her ability to be articulate, totally missing her ability, like you said, you got told to fix up a little bit and present yourself a little bit different. She's capable of doing that, but the black male may look at that on first interaction and say, that ain't for me.
He hasn't given her a second chance. He's saying she looks attractive, but I think she's got that type of attitude, so I'm not even gonna take it a step further.
There.
It's gonna
shut it down.
It's a really difficult one to kind of like impact the dynamic. The reason why I say that is because what I mean is that, like, you see with young children, particularly young girls, I know there's been a lot of effort in the black media, and also in the mainstream. We've seen things on the Beeb again, right? When they're talking about natural hair and chocolate colored and dark skinned princesses and dark skinned kids. And I think that's really important to have that balance, that extra balance for younger children, because we know that thing in America back in the civil rights era, I think it was Brown v. the Board of Education, where the children were so black children, African-American children were so indoctrinated that they already were picking the white doll in the experiment, black doll experiment. They were picking the white doll as intelligent, character, which one will be naughty and bad, you think they pick the black doll, which one is honest person, they pick the white doll. So we know particularly when it comes to young children, or maybe like young black girls, about them feeling that sense of self-worth, and that extra effort is needed. But I'm saying, is it like almost like the flip side of that? Well, when you get big, you're big now, so you have to suck it up and keep it moving and do what you need to do, however you get that job. If you have to come on time or come correct or whatever it is, but it can't. I mean, when it comes to the dating, you can't really police that. What's your thoughts about that?
No, but the thing about policing dating, it's not about police, it's about understanding yourself before you want to police another individual. Understanding what your own needs are. So I remember the last time, just before lockdown, we did one of your workshops down at East India Dock there.
Okay, yeah. See how time flies.
Right. So when we spoke about, few things were spoken about at that section, and we spoke about your love signal, did we not? There was a system.
Yeah, love languages. Yeah.
Love language. Right. Now, looking at love language is not just about the language you're giving to somebody else for them to understand, interpret, and then meet your needs. Love language is understanding your own love language first. So if you are somebody who are attracted to one group of one type of skin tone to another, and you've never questioned that in your own self, one has to question, why am I attracted to fairer skinned men or fairer skinned women? Why am I attracted to that? That is where your relationship starts to develop, when you understand yourself. Because
so self-awareness is key. Self-awareness is primary.
Thank you. And then when you understand yourself and why you're attracted to that, it's like somebody who's attracted to a bad drug that they know it's not good for them, but they still take it. Now, in order to stop being addicted to something that's not good for you, you then have to go back to analyzing what's causing that and what's caused that in the first place. You're a counselor, you know, you have to do that background, and it is about the self. So I'm conscious of what colorism has been in society. I'm conscious of its historical background. That plays a major part in when I make decisions to find an attraction of the opposite sex. It's just like how
you're aware that that's your, as they say that in counseling, that's your stuff. You know, that's your stuff, yeah?
As an individual, I claim mine, yeah?
Yes.
So I'm not speaking for the masses, but I'm using myself as the example to demonstrate something. Now, at the same token, if I have had a negative personal experience with a particular male, whether it's a white male or happens to be a dark skin or a light skin male, that will affect my future in how I look at things out in the outer world, how my eyes perceive stuff in the outer world. The society I live in promotes one particular thing. The society that I live in, 2021, still promotes white supremacy. So,
no, white supremacy, white supremacy or white privilege, however you name it. I mean, it's a complicated argument, but ultimately it's alive and well, unfortunately, but it's alive and well. I would say.
Thank you. So it's alive and well, whichever specific, it's alive and well and it's active. Now, because that perception, white privilege, is the role model, has always been the role model here in the West, in London. It's not willing to take a back seat to promote anything else. It's willing to add the odd inclusion, so we're not accused of discrimination or equality, but it hasn't taken it to the level where it should be, where we look at people as just people. Every person is in a box, even to the point where psychologically, we as African Caribbean people here have also adopted those boxes. So we now judge each other based on those same, equivalents that we've been given. We're judging each other on those same things. If we meet a brother and he's not able to articulate or speak well, we've already put him in a box based on the the
human being is prejudice, yeah? I'm not saying we're good people as humans, but we all carry prejudice, right? Whether it's through class, language, whatever it is, the way people express themselves, or if somebody speaks well and they're black, we question their blackness because they don't speak slang. Maybe they're not from the ends. You get me, fam? Like, it's a load of everybody either side of the fence. Somebody that you didn't go to school, or this person doesn't sound educated. The prejudice is there.
And we've been loaded with all of those cognitive
preconceived
things.
Yeah.
We've been pre-programmed with all these preconceived conceptions, perceptions, and instead of some of us stop and analyze and question and say, well, you know what? I ain't really going to judge a budget like that. I'm going to judge you as a human being and how you're interacting, rather than just looking at you and making a judgment. I go into work environments, and based on my image, as anyone has known me, my image has always been a different image, run away, do things that no other sister and brethren is doing, and walk in it quite comfortably and quite proudly as an African sister. However, I do get that same dichotomy for my own sisters, because my image is different. I get sisters who look at me and say, look at me now, and compliment and say, like your haircut, like your shaving, I like your image, and thing like that. And I know that those individuals, my brothers and sisters that did, are those that are very much in the same place. They're conscious about their own self. They understand beauty per se in us as a nation and as a nation of people. But that they are not tied to society's perception. Majority of our people are tied to society and what side society has told them. Black hair businesses are the black women's beauty field is the biggest area.
Multi-billion pound business per annum.
Multi-trillion pound industry that
globally,
we spend money.
Globally.
We're not the faces of the products. We're the consumers of the products, but in the advertising and in the marketing, apart from America, because America does promote its own African-American people on their own products and their own branding and their own name. Here in the West, in London, you don't go right now. If I go to Superdrugs and I want to buy a hair color, on the entire range of 200 hair colors, not one single person.
No way, no chance.
Not one single person on all of those hair colors and all of those boxes has an image like myself.
And I'll tell you something, talking about beauty products, I'm sure it was only a year or two ago, a major company that deals with beauty, hygiene and beauty products made an advert to do with soap. Somebody washing, like a black person washing with the, I can't remember what soap it is, so I'm not going to mention the name in case I get it wrong. Washed themselves and then they came out the shower white or something like that, which was a bit off, but that they looked like something from 1970. The concept was like a 1972 concept. Like you'd expect that way back as a little child, but I didn't expect to see that in the 21st century.
Well, I think I remember the advert, and I think it was a Dove advert advertising a product of Dove soap or shower gel, and there was untold of complaints about it, if I remember rightly. there was untold complaints about it for that same reason. Now, we're in 2000, like you said, we're in the 2000s. And yet, to this day, that perception of white being right to sell any products is still active. Unfortunately, because a lot of our people want to be accepted by white privilege, by white people per se, they are willing to accommodate that in order to make them psychologically believe that they will be accepted. Black women, we are who we are, and we're quite clear about who we are. I think the younger generation are fighting something different because they're a generation that have grown up with more, more integrated with white culture.
Yes.
White culture, Chinese culture, whatever culture. I call it the urban white culture. So most urban white people, Chinese people, everybody wants a piece of Black African culture, Jamaican culture, whether it's wearing the baggy trousers, name brand, the imagery, the way that the street slang, that's the street language and stuff.
Well, you know how I would put that? I would put that as youth culture in the Western world. Youth culture is Black culture. So in London, it will be London twang and a London energy of Black youth culture is adopted by all the other different races. And it's probably possibly the same in America. Like there's a kind of swag or a certain thing that is part of youth culture, but it comes out of the Black experience. And then the people from different minorities or even the mainstream community will adopt, young people will adopt a lot of those vibes, a lot of those.
And every culture can adopt them and second them. And those cultures are not questioned about what's right, what's wrong, what is accepted, what's not accepted. It's accepted as a norm. They don't have an issue with colorism. They don't have an issue with plagiarism. They don't have an issue with any of those things. And everybody, including the African and African Caribbean culture, accept and accommodate that.
But the thing is, my argument is though, there was no bombs, there was no planes, there was no army sent in, but still people adopt Black speech, people adopt Black fashion. Adele will wear a Jamaican bra top and have a bikini top, should I say, not a bra, a bikini top, and a Bantu plait style. In America, that's seen as cultural appropriation, maybe from the Caribbean Black perspective, more like, boy, she like the thing and she grew up on the end, so no big thing. Maybe many of her friends were from, Jamaican heritage, so she just, flexing. It wasn't really like an appropriation. But I want to bring it back to the dating side of things, or should I say marriage relational, but attraction side of things. Now, recently I watched a program on Oprah Winfrey's channel, on her channel. There's a show called like a dating show called Ready for Love, and every week somebody I don't know if you've seen it, but every week some like these dating shows, a man and a woman gets voted out. There's 10 contestants and the man gets voted out. Anyway, there's one episode where I thought this hypervigilance and this colorism thing, we need to get a hand on it. It needs to be addressed because this is getting way out of whack. There's a young lady on the show. They get together as women and they say which guy they want to vote off. The men do likewise. So people was mentioning different things. Oh, this woman wasn't friendly enough, or she seems too much like a homegirl, or this. Fine. One woman said, I want to vote off this guy. She wants to go off this guy. He's got narcissistic traits. Yeah? So far, so good. She starts off by saying, well, first of all, he's tall, he's light-skinned, he's educated, and he kind of reminds me of an ex. And the things that she listed had nothing to do with narcissism. It was kind of like her stuff. And she goes, he reminds me of something. It's like, what the hell is going on? Like, that was almost like colorism in reverse. She had an issue with this guy because he was tall, light-skinned, and he was not even full of himself, but like, she's policing his confidence levels now. Like, he's narcissist because he's confident. But I flipped.
But doesn't that go back to what I was saying earlier about understanding what your needs are when you're looking at an attraction to another person? What is it that I like and I don't like? And no one's questioning why I like and don't like those things. It's just thrown on to somebody else. So like the woman said, he's light-skinned. So that clearly tells the whole audience that she's about anything other than a light-skinned man. Now that's not looking at his qualities, him being light-skinned or dark-skinned is irrelevant. It was about understand where I'm coming from. So
I'm not, I mean, I might be tall, but I'm not light-skinned, but even I was outraged because I'm like, what, can't you just say he's not my type?
No,
like,
But we haven't been taught that. What we have been taught is to pick at people's characteristics, people's imagery. If a beautiful black woman wearing glasses, clearly as argument would be presented as not as attractive as one not wearing glasses.
Yeah, we've got the biases, we've got the prejudices, we've got the biases and prejudices.
And those biases and prejudices, for me, are not real. They're false fears that have been pre-programmed into us, and we've carried up and grown in a culture, English westernized culture, where it's been okay to do that. And it's been okay to judge people based on your image. We live in a society where Black people are racially profiled based on our image.
No doubt. So as I know that we've only got a few more moments, but I want to take a little bit of time to look at a bit more solutions. Like I mentioned, when it comes to young children, particularly young girls, for example, Black girls, I know there's been concerted effort, consciously campaigns about dark skin and bronze skin and natural hair and things of this nature for children, right? But is there something that we can, I don't know, kind of like, I know this is part of a conversation. This isn't the solution, is in like the end, but what do we need to start to discuss or bring into our Black diaspora to address colorism around dating, marriage, attraction? Not just colorism in general, but specific to romance or Afro.
First and foremost, we need to do key things. Take out the negativity that we are comfortable always doing. As a group of people, we're quick to find the negative in each other, i.e., oh, I don't like her hair, or I don't like his trainers, or we need to stop doing that, and we need to start promoting the healthy, beautiful aspects of us as people and show the healthy aspects of our relationships. There are too many public negative imageries about Black relationships, even to the point where other cultures feel that the African Caribbean families can't have and don't have healthy family structures or healthy relationships. That is a false perception that has been promoted. And it's also being not by the African Black Caribbean people, it's for me promoted by everybody else's culture about who we are. What we as a people need to stop people from doing that. When they turn around and say, oh, Black men don't stay with their baby mothers and they leave their children, or they turn around and say, oh, you Black women are this, we need to shut people down when they're coming to us with that.
We need to challenge that, right? We definitely need to challenge those tropes, those stereotypes, negative stereotypes.
Shut it down, and then give them the positive, factual truth of that perception. Just like how we expect our children to grow up in a multinational society with all internationals living here just in little old islands of the UK. And then we're teaching them how to integrate with all people. We teach our children that. African Caribbean people teach our children, just treat people as children, as people. Don't teach them to treat a Spanish person or a Portuguese person different. We don't teach that. We teach our
We learn to respect our, or appreciation for self, love of self, right?
And we're happy to learn other cultures and share that back. So I think for me, in order to challenge this perception on colorism, it is about us as a people, not relying on the European perception. I think it's us that have to take the responsibility of putting out, teaching and re-educating the healthy, positive aspects of Black relationships, healthy Black African family structures. We have got tribals, we've got tribes and cultures where marriage and family are core to who we are, what our foundations, how we teach. That needs to be a perception that is promoted more, and not rely on things like BBC documentary to do a one-off program about Blackness because Black Lives Matters.
Okay. All right, next question. I'm getting the most out of you before the time, while I still got you on the airwaves, yeah? Sometimes because of male preference, right, or perceptions about male preference over light skin over dark skin, yeah, it's kind of set up, there's a little bit of an undercurrent, or sometimes a bit of a rivalry between sometimes light skinned women and dark skinned women, right? Certain sections of the community. How would you speak to that in a sense of trying to kill that beef, or level out the thing for the queens, them level out the thing for the sisterins, them too?
Sisterins, them after
I know women are right when it comes to beauty. Women are kind of competitive anyway, regardless of skin tone or race or anything. They want to be the brightest cherry in the fruit jar. You know what I mean? That's kind of standard, but.
And I think, again, that comes back for me about being confident of who you are as a sister, regardless of your skin tone. It's about being confident about your own inner and
within.
outer.
It's what's within, right? It's what's within.
Exactly, your own inner and outer beauty. I don't see sistrins as light skin and dark skin sistrin. I just see them as a sistrin. Yeah, either a sistrin I'm into or a sistrin I'm not. Period. I don't see colorism. I don't. If we look at our families as African Jamaican people, we shouldn't even be discussing colorism because we've got every nation in our family lineage. Our cousins, our auntie, our mum, our dad, they've all got different melanin to their different levels of melanin.
That's true. That's true. Definitely Caribbean people have got every skin tone in the same. Sometimes it's just same siblings, same mum and dad. Every looks different.
Look in your family right now. People just sat around their brothers and their sisters and their mum and dad. Count how many shades of melanin are just in that room as a family every single day. You don't argue about colorism then. You're not fighting each other over the word colorism. You're treating each other just as family members. Simple. Mm-hmm. It's not complicated. What has made it complicated and an issue is the outer influences of what that is. Now, somebody has created boxes to put us in, and we as sisters need to let them know that I'm not in nobody's box. I don't look at another sister and put her in a box. I see a sister as a beauty. I either find her beautiful and attractive or I don't. It's got nothing to do with her legs, her arms, her melanin. It's just something that I like or I don't like. We as sisters, we need to be doing that. I respect all sisters that see me, whether I'm working in my job, walking down the street. Yesterday, assisting two young girls in my workplace. I work in Sainsbury's, in my workplace, and they were like, we were just talking, you just walked past, we were just talking about you, like your hair. I said, blessed love, young ladies, enough respect for that. Now, when I saw those women, I didn't look at who was light and who was dark. They were probably about in their 20s, maybe 23, 24. I didn't see them as who was light, as who was dark. I just saw them as two beautiful sisters. You had the confidence to rise up an older woman based on what they saw as beauty and attractive as another sister. And they made a comment. I responded back in the same kind of love and responded back in the same kind of love. To me, that's how all of us should be functioning when we're in this society amongst each other. But we are caught up in somebody else's psychological dynamics.
I hear that, man. Powerful words, man. Powerful words. Thanks for that, Sister Aura. I think taking this conversation forward, there's been a lot of food for thought today. You give me a lot of food for thought. I think we're gonna have to link this thing again and go a little bit deeper, because I feel that with the time that we got, we only just open up the airwaves and got the grey matter moving a little bit. But there's definitely a lot more angles to this conversation. But I really appreciate that. I want to just say before we finish up that I think there's something that we can take from, even if it's Jamaican culture. One thing I noticed, it was a recording artist, Buju Banton, in his early days before he became woke. He made a tune called Browning, and I think the women in Jamaica protested. They stuck it on him. They gave him a hard time, and before you know it, he had the same cover, same rhythm track, but he came up with "I love all black women, no matter their complexion." He fixed it quick because there was pressure put on him. So I think that's something to bear in mind. That sometimes we have these artists that come out and say reckless things. I mean, date who you want to date. I'm 52 now, so I mean, I'm halfway down the journey. That people be with it, marry who you want to marry. You can't police that. But one thing don't do is like throw black women under the bus if your preference isn't a dark-skinned black woman or black women in general. Don't throw them under the bus. I think if we hear that as black men, we do have to challenge that. We do have to challenge that. That's what you can police. You can't police who they date, but don't be coming up here and talking reckless about black women. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like,
and also the same applies with our brothers. When you've got people out there always dogging our brothers because of the stereotype image that's always promoted about our black men, and the only type of black men that seems to be okay are the black men that are married to white women. That's, we need to stop that rubbish. If our black men weren't good, nobody would. If our black men, African men, weren't beautiful, nobody would want them. Every part of the planet wants a piece of our black brothers and our black men. So we need to take that accountability ourselves and change that perception ourselves. Within ourselves, question why we judge people, judging our brothers and sisters. And we also need to share the love of how we correct that, how we teach that better for our children and even for ourselves, because we've still got to, if you're single and I'm single and we're looking to date someone right now, what are the tools that we are looking at? That what are you looking at that woman? Are you looking at the skin tone? Are you looking at whether or not, you know, she's wearing glasses or not wearing glasses? Are you just looking for somebody based on where you're at in your own self?
No, important. Like as I say, to finish off, to each their own, but let us be careful before we prejudge people for their judgments. But it's been a lot of fun, and we're going to do this again. All being well, we're going to do this again.
We finally managed to get. We've been trying for
finally, but nothing happens before the time, man. Nothing happens before the time. But to yourself, Sister Aura, I want to say enough respect. Thanks for coming through, and to the viewers, thank you for staying for the duration. And we'll catch you next time on another edition of It Takes Two. Until then, stay safe.